Hiya guys, sorry about my voice, it's a bit croaky today. I'm not very well, but I wanted to react to this video by Stand Tall Israel, and it's a debate between Mossab Hassan Youssef and a Palestinian activist. Now, I love this guy. If anybody doesn't know who Mossab is, he is the son of the founder of Hamas, the person who founded Hamas. He didn't like the fact that they were using his people as suicide bombers. Sorry, take that off the screen. So, oh yeah, go over and subscribe to this channel and show them some love. Anyway, he didn't like the fact that they were using his people as suicide bombers. And he didn't like the fact that innocent people were being killed. So what ended up happening was he ended up defecting over to the Israeli side. They always throw remarks at him that he's a traitor and that he's paid by Israel. Now, being the son of the founder of Hamas, we all know how many billions and billions and billions of dollars have went into that organization. This guy didn't have to do what he did. He could have stayed where he was and lived like a king. Because the leaders of Hamas live in places like Qatar. They live in 5-star hotels. They drive Bugattis. They have private air jet. They have their own private Gulfstream air jets. So if this was all about money, why would he defect over to Israel? He did it because he wanted to save lives. But you normally find in these debates that that's a card that gets used against him. So let's get into this and watch this. Oh, by the way, I'll be getting tons of threats from jihadis. I'm sorry, I'm not going to stop talking about this situation. I'm not going to stop talking about what I disagree with that's in your book. If you want to threaten me for that, I don't know what to say to you. We should be allowed to critique what's in the Bible, the Torah, and the Quran. If you can't take that, that's on you. That's not on me. But to threaten me because I dare to critique your book. I'm not critiquing any Muslim whatsoever. In fact, I've always been very respectful and says that there is hundreds of thousands of really good Muslims out there. But we cannot ignore the fact that the top 20 terrorist groups in the world are Islamist extremists. And it all comes from the passages in your book. So yeah, you started taking videos down beforehand when I started critiquing this because I was getting threats, you know, getting death threats and stuff like that. But now, if you honestly think like I'm afraid to like die, you're mistaken. I've come back to my faith, I've came back to Christ, and I know where I'm going, you know, when I finally pass on. So, bring it on, jihadis, bring it on. Well, let's go on to this.
I came here tonight with a fucking taser because you think you're protesting peacefully?
So you can call me TikTok watcher, you can call me Gen Z, you can call me arrogant, What you can't do is respond to the facts.
What facts? The fact that I was born there and you weren't? The fact that you have a second-hand knowledge?
I love that Mossab. So Mossab was born in the Palestinian territories. He makes really good points that his birth certificate doesn't say, even though he was born in the West Bank, it doesn't say that his nationality is Palestinian. It says it's Jordanian. And he goes on to the fact that Yasser Arafat was the one that created Palestine, an Egyptian. He explains it much better than I do, so I'm going to let him carry on talking. And thank you to this guy for uploading this video so I can react to it. Thank you. And all credit goes to you for doing this. Oh, sorry.
No, the fact that
you think saving human life is treason?
They planned to move on and kill as much as they could in Beersheba.
This woman here was one of the victims who was taken hostage by Hamas on October 7th. The only reason I know that is because I recall her face on the posters.
In Tel Aviv, in Haifa, they wanted to slaughter everybody. You know what? Maybe you will not believe me. I can present you my videos that I took there.
The son of one of the founders of Hamas debates a pro-Palestinian activist from UCLA. Watch as he gets completely destroyed.
Oh yeah, the fact that I was going to make there, sorry, before I got derailed, was that I love Mossab's passion. He is like what reminds you like of like the somewhat of a typical Arab who doesn't take any crap, you know, from anyone. And he's very passionate about what he speaks about, and I genuinely think this is one of the bravest men in the world, because he's probably one of the most wanted men in the world by the jihadis, who would love to kill him because of what he did, which was save human lives.
Name 3 books as source of your information.
Yeah, sure. The Nation Forum by Rashida Khalidi.
Who is that? I never heard of this woman.
He was actually he was part of the peace process in the 90s.
Okay.
But you don't know about him. That's fine. I still respect your opinion. It doesn't mean that you're wrong just because you don't know a single author, okay? That's fine.
All the books that you read looks like going only in one direction, to delegitimize Israel.
Do you know who Benny Morris is?
I don't need to know. I think you're just making up stuff.
Or the making of the Israeli nation.
And I think...
Making of the Israeli nation. Do you know that book? Or are you just uneducated?
Look,
what's the answer?
Listen. What did I tell you from the beginning of this conversation? I don't need to read books to know my...
Oh, you don't need to read books, but I
don't need. I write the books.
You know, why does he need to read books? He lived there. He grew up there. He was part of Hamas. His father was a founder of Hamas. Why does he need to read books to know about his own region? Whereas this other guy's saying, oh, you don't need to read books, but I do. Well, yeah, you never grew up there. You don't know what it's like to live there. This guy has life experience. That's a stupid question. This guy had.
I live the experience. I am the author.
All the credibility you gained.
I am not a second-hand knowledge.
All of the credibility that you gained by living in Palestine was taken away from you when Israel put you on their paycheck.
Now to people.
Told you that's the thing that they pull out. So once again, I want to reiterate, this guy didn't have to do this, okay? He could have stayed with Hamas and lived like a king. Been a billionaire. A billionaire. He left and now is under a death sentence. So he has to, basically, like, he doesn't live in fear, because he says he doesn't fear death. But he saying that, you became basically a traitor when you went on Israel's payroll. Do you honestly think the pittance that Israel would have paid him would compare to the billions that he would be worth if he had stayed with Hamas? I mean, this is a guy who loved his mum, loved his family, he even loved his dad. And he lost all of that. And his dad even put a fatwa out on him, saying that, just kill him. He's disowned. Imagine your own dad, who you love dearly, doing that to you. So it's always the argument that they use, but it doesn't hold any water, because he'd be so much richer if he hadn't helped people.
Like us who really know what the Quran teaches, it's just crazy to even imagine this is even happening. But now we're going to see Mossab really hit the nail on the head.
First of all, if you want to take personal aim, I can take you on a rabbit hole that you will never get out of it.
Sure. Go ahead.
I have been patient and respecting you. You know why? Because you're just an arrogant student with no knowledge, with no life experience, advocating on a very dangerous cause, being a useful idiot in the hands of terrorists, creating trouble, putting encampment, breaking the law, advocating on behalf of a terrorist organization designated by the American law as a terrorist organization.
And what he's talking about is the encampments and the protests and stuff that went on, especially over in America, and then you had places in Australia that were seeing things like gas the Jews, encampments that saying we are all Hamas. You know, they're supporting a terrorist regime that would happily end their lives, because the fact of the matter is, you're not part of them. If you're not part of their religion, then you're not part of them. Then you're an infidel. You're what's known as a dhimmi. You're kafar. And if you truly read the Quran and the Hadiths, it says that anyone who's like Muslim, Christian, Jew are lower than the lowest of creatures. Christians are pigs. Jews are donkeys, rats, and monkeys. That they want to basically kill us. So this guy knows what he's talking about. He went to Sharia schools when he was a youngster in Palestine. He attended mosque regular. So you're not going to win an argument with him on this subject at all.
Makes you a terrorist. So if you want to talk about personal things, you challenge me for doing a legitimate work for a democracy to save human lives, and you want to reduce my effort to say that I got paid 10 years fighting and chasing after terrorists who blow up, killed Americans, Israelis, Arabs, Muslims, all type of people indiscriminately. Do you think you can sit here and judge me? And you don't have the authority to sit there and judge, tell me I took money or I did not take money. This is not...
You imagine like slagging this guy off for saving human lives. All he did was alert the Israeli authorities because he was like in the top echelons of Hamas. So all he did was alert that X is about to commit a suicide bombing. They're going to start an intifada. And it's going to end up killing hundreds of people. And as he says there, bombs don't discriminate. In Israel, there is Druze, there is Muslims, there's Christians, there's Jews, there's Coptic Christians, there is many, many different religions that live in Israel. So when a bomb goes off, do you think like it cares and puts a shield up against a certain religion as to not harm them? No, it doesn't. It blows them up as well.
Your business.
No, you did take money. That's a fact, and that's fine.
This is
You
not
took money.
your business.
You took money from Israel, and that's okay. You're a propagandist for Israel. That's just a fact, and it's the reality of the situation.
If you know anything about Mossab, you know that he had a really hard life. And to wave that all away by calling him a propagandist is crazy. It just goes to show the shameless denial these people are in.
No matter what I say, he's going to say, you are paid. You're on a payroll. You're advocating on behalf of the Zionists. And he will continue to be in his denial for eternity. This is a phenomenon of useful idiots that they're advocating on behalf of a dangerous organization. They're bringing chaos, intifada to the United.
And that's what Iran wants. Because who do you think is paying for all these protests? Who do you think's paying for them? You just look at the ones in London. Who do you think owns most of London? Take a guess. It's the Qataris. The Qataris own our capital city of the United Kingdom. So you see these massive large protests, and it makes sense. Now, I used to wonder, like, how come they're getting so many of like these people out, you know, with their kafar, their kafar and that on which they stole, culturally appropriated from the Iraqis. But okay, I was thinking to myself, how the hell are they getting so many of these people? You see the people in their burqas and stuff like that, all marching. And obviously there is people there who are decent people that are genuinely concerned for the Palestinian people who are caught up in this war because of Hamas. But the fact that there's also people in that crowd that are screaming, I support Hamas, and equating the Israelis to the Nazis is disgusting, considering we all know what happened to the Jews in World War II. And then you even getting them denying that World War II, they fabricated the numbers. Have you guys even watched? The videos are on YouTube of when the Allies went into Auschwitz. It's a very hard watch to watch, but I advise you to go and watch it. There's hundreds and thousands and thousands and thousands, like millions of bodies that the Nazis, they first of all tried to burn, then they tried to like put them all in a mass grave. Then they realised the Allies were getting closer and they tried to burn them again. It was so bad that it was driving some of the Nazi soldiers crazy that they had to get so blind and drunk and able to perform this. There was literally, it looks like mountains of bodies. It is horrifying to watch, and that is just one camp, and there were many.
States of America, because the government is not taking care of this business.
He has the literal son of the co-founder of Hamas telling him how they operate, what they do, and he still doesn't believe it. Really goes to show, at least for me, that this is a spiritual battle.
So you can call me TikTok watcher, you can call me Gen Z, you can call me arrogant. What you can't do is respond to the facts.
What facts?
Well, you know,
What facts?
To be fair, we need facts, and that's what I was kind of asking you about. So,
Well,
The fact that I was born there and you weren't? The fact that you have a second-hand knowledge?
No, the fact that
The fact
Israel...
that you think saving human life is treason?
No.
But now it's really gonna get bad for him, because a member of the audience, who was one of the hostages taken by Hamas, joins them on stage and tries to have a dialogue with him. But as you will see, he was really uncomfortable. He couldn't even look at her.
I guess I just would ask you the simple question of what do you want the world to know? What do you want Mr. Doyle to know?
I'm an artist. I served the army 22 years ago. I have all the signs on me. I had an Arabic necklace on me. I had the Indian Ganesh tattoo on me. I had Pharaoh on my fingers because I'm half Egyptian and half Moroccan, but I'm Jewish. Okay? And I have the letter I got on my hand. You know why? Because I believe in coexisting. Did you know that the vast majority of the hostages believes in coexisting? So I'm an artist. And on October 7th, I went to fulfill my dream. I went to make my dream come true. When October 7th happened, and that's a fact, they told me it in the inside. They didn't know about the Nova Festival music. They didn't know that we have 3,000 people in there. They planned, and they told me that. They planned to move on and kill as much as they could. In Beersheba, in Tel Aviv, in Haifa, they wanted to slaughter everybody. You know what? Maybe you will not believe me. I can present you my videos that I took there. Do you know how many bodies were there? Do you know how much violence was taken on me? I was caught in the middle of a lynch. I was presented as a soldier because I chose to wear green army lookalike uniform that day. By mistake, I was categorized as a soldier, and I was treated as a soldier. When I was entering Gaza, and I told you before, I have Arab suppliers, I have Arab neighbors and Arab friends. When I was entering Gaza, and there is a video of that, I saw 100% of civilians celebrating me being taken. All I saw is 100%.
We all saw that. God, like, I cannot fathom what this poor woman went through, but when I saw Shani Luke's body being paraded round, her dead body being paraded round Gaza, and all they're celebrating, spitting on her, hitting her with body with sticks, children, mothers, fathers, all of them were celebrating. All of them celebrated. Every hostage just said that when they were taken into Gaza, that the population were celebrating. Now, like I said, well, I feel terrible that people are dying in the Gaza. It didn't stop them celebrating the day it happened. But I just feel like, because like they effed around and found out, all of a sudden now they're all so sorry. Well, if you were oh so sorry, like, why were you celebrating when it happened? Why when the Israeli government were offering $1 million safe passage out of Gaza? if you rung this special number that was encrypted, if you knew, because the hostages were being kept in civilian homes, if you knew where even one hostage was, if you could help them. How many Gazans do you think phoned in and says, look, I know where an Israeli hostage is being kept. This is the place. Zero. Absolutely zero. Which says a lot. And then you also have to look at the polls that have came out that show how many of the Palestinians supported October 7th. I think it's about 80% of them supported it. 10% were not sure. 10% didn't support it. The West Bank was worse. They were saying that if they could oust the PLO government today, that Hamas would be voted in the very next day. And there's actual videos of journalists that have went into the West Bank and asked if what happened on October 7th to the Jewish people was deserved. And every single one of them said yes. And they asked them, do you think it should happen again and again and again? They all said yes. The journalist was asked even to the babies and mothers, and yeah, they said yes. So she's absolutely right. They were. All of them were celebrating. They celebrated when the hostages were released. Those pathetic, I don't even know what to call them. Those sick pantomime that they put on when they made the hostages get on the stage, and what they did to the Beavis family, a baby, and his 3 or either 4, it was either 3 or 4-year-old toddler brother, paraded them on stage in the coffins. And when they opened the coffins up, filled with Hamas propaganda, strangled those little boys. Can you imagine that? These little boys, not knowing what's happening to them. Hamas strangled them. And then you also need to remember that it wasn't just Hamas that stormed Israel on October 7th. The Palestinian civilians joined them. There's videos of it. There's videos of the Palestinian civilians joining them. So when I hear everybody saying these are just all victims and stuff. These are people. And there's videos out there of it. That when 9/11 happened and hundreds of thousands of thousands, not hundreds, thousands of Americans were brutally murdered. They celebrated that in the street. They done the exact same thing on 7/7 when London was attacked by Islamic extremists. They celebrated and thought it was amazing. They were dancing. And during the 9/11, yeah, they were dancing, handing out sweets to kids, acting as though you'd think it was like some kind of 4th of July parade. The way they acted when those hostages got taken into Gaza was disgraceful. Disgraceful. You didn't even see one of them turning their heads and shaking their heads and thinking this is disgusting. Now, granted, there have been Palestinian protesters that have called out Hamas. Do you know what they did to him? They kidnapped him, tortured him, they tied his legs together, then attached the rope to the back of a pickup truck and drove him around the gravel streets of in Gaza. Killed, and he died. Then, just to make a further point, they dumped his body outside his parents' house. Just to make a point, if you speak up against us, this is what's going to happen to you. And this is what these people in these encampments, we are all Hamas, these terrorist-loving weirdos, this is what they're supporting. Because there are, even though there was Palestinians celebrating, there are Palestinians that, like I said, with that review, I think it was Henry Jackson that did it. There are Palestinians that do not want this. They don't want this. But the fact of the matter is, it's a very small amount. And if they and they say that there's no Hamas in the West Bank. Mossab is from the West Bank. There's Hamas in the West Bank. So I don't know why they lie about that.
Of civilians lynching me, beating me up. I was with a broken leg. I had bruises all over my Arab suppliers. I have Arab neighbors and Arab friends. When I was entering Gaza, and there is a video of that, I saw 100% of civilians celebrating me being taken. All I saw is 100% of civilians lynching me, beating me up. I was with a broken leg. I had bruises all over my body. Do you know that I've never cursed them? I've never argued with them.
This guy doesn't even care.
And I've never treated them like garbage. I respected them, even when they abused me.
You can see he has nothing to say to this. Because
this is this woman being taken into Gaza. A still from the video. Look at them. Celebrating. With a finger pointed up to the air. Look at them, their hands in the air. Look at them all. There's thousands of people there. And this was all up and down the Gaza Strip.
he knows he can't defend those actions. But they go on to talk about how none of the real members of Hamas are willing to debate or talk about this openly.
Question.
But how can you have a discussion with none of the Hamas representatives sitting here now, and you will never sit here right now? How can you have both sides facts if only one side is volunteer to sit here at all time? Did you see any one of the Hamas comes to sit here?
I can't speak for the people who didn't want to speak. But what I can say is that the view of Hamas as a completely implacable...
I can't believe he never just even said, look, what happened to you is disgusting, and I'm sorry that happened. He just moves on and treats this woman who was lynched, beaten. So her story didn't matter. Like, these people do not care. They don't care. They support it.
Is not completely incorrect, because they see the Palestinian issue as a very religious issue, and going back on that issue is seen as going back on God. But like we saw with the PLO, over time, they become more of a political movement and less of a nationalist movement, like we'll see with Hamas.
Lies. The PLO have a law on their books that is a law for martyrs. So they pay suicide bombers, families, money for the rest of their lives if one of their family or their son or whatever goes out and explodes himself and takes out as many Jews as they can. The more Jews that they kill, the more money the family gets. It's in their law. Go and read it. Like, I'm not making this up. Don't believe what I'm telling you. Just go and research it.
Like we've seen with the change from 1987 charter to 1917 charter, they change and they adapt and they grow over time, and it's changing from a staunchly religious movement. Obviously, it still is a very much religious movement, but the movement itself, especially with regard to Hamas, becomes more political and becomes more malleable.
But it's religious. You'd have to be a lunatic to think that this is just about land. If this was about land, when Egypt had control of the Gaza, why didn't they protest for their state then? When Jordan had control of the West Bank, which is true name is Judea and Samaria, why didn't they protest then? They only protested when it was the Jews.
Ideas that in time,
which proves they don't want their own state. They don't want their own state. They just don't want Jews in that land.
If we can get Israel and Hamas to both agree to a just solution, then it's ridiculous to say, well, because Hamas is implacable now, then there won't be a solution.
So he refuses to answer the first question. Then he goes on to say that magically Hamas is going to be more reasonable over time if they can strike some kind of deal.
Because Hamas is implacable now, then there won't be a solution.
So he refuses to answer the first question. Then he goes on to say that magically Hamas...
That picture there. See, seeing that bastard, dead, was such a, because he was the architect of what happened to these poor people on October 7th. Talking about burning families alive, beheading people, indiscriminately executing people, throwing grenades into bomb shelter rooms, torturing hostages, killing them, strangling babies to death. This is the face of pure evil. And he's standing there with his arm up. And this is like one of the many pictures you'll see this lunatic without a child in his arms. Because normally every picture you see with him, he's got a young kid in his arms with a bloody AK-47. The kid holding it. Because he'd rather the child get hit rather than him. Selfish POS. This is a man who was in an Israeli prison who ended up with cancer. And they treated him and cured him of his cancer. In my opinion, and I know this might sound horrible and wrong, but the world would have be a much more safer place. They'd just let him die. But he's gone now. He's gone. They got him hiding, trying to hide in a house, covering himself in a blanket. One of the best days ever was when I saw that they took this monster out. So Hasta la vista, Simwa, you absolute monster. I hope you enjoy hell.
It's going to be more reasonable over time if they can strike some kind of deal, which we all know is never going to happen. Surah 9:5 says, "Then kill the disbelievers wherever you find them, capture them and besiege them, and lie in wait for them in
Exactly. This is the Quran. The Quran. Capture the believers wherever you find them. Besiege them. Lie in wait for each and every one of them. And ambush them. And if they repent, that means like if you can make them, you force them to convert. And other than that, yeah. Either hang them or behead them.
each and every ambush if they can strike some kind of deal, which we all know is never going to happen. Surah 9:5 says, "Then kill the disbelievers wherever you find them, capture them and besiege them."
Sorry, I missed that part. I missed the part. Then kill the disbelievers. So mushrikin is the disbelievers in Arabic. So anybody who is not a member of that faith, kill them wherever you may find them. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with it, with a book that is advocating for my death.
And lie in wait for them in each and every ambush.
The problem is not only with Hamas. It looks like we have to please so many opposing forces. We try to please Hamas, then we have a problem with the Islamic Jihad. Then if we please Islamic Jihad, we have a problem with the public front. We please this, then we have to go to FIDA. Then we have to go to national. We have about 12 Palestinian factions, and all of them have different idea of what Palestine is and what can satisfy their political ambition. Then now we have Mr. Dillon, and we have a million like him in the United States that they became legitimate force in the conflict. So Israel will have to also bring them to the negotiating table and try to please their political ambition as well. So as you see, each one of them is basically a black hole that cannot be satisfied. And all of them have one thing in common. And that's not to build a Palestine. It's only to delegitimize Israel. That's the only thing they know how to do. Because if you ask him practically, how can he actually construct a model of Palestine if he's never been there? If he was actually a sincere person, he would take a flight and go to Gaza and feel the people and see their suffering firsthand. Or if it's too dangerous for him, I wouldn't blame him. Probably he would be very terrified to be in Gaza. It's too much. At least go to the West Bank. You can go to the city of Ramallah, live with the people for a couple of years, understand their culture. And when I say a couple of years, it's not enough. In order to know the mentality of the people, you have to spend with them a decade at least of daily experience to understand what they stand for before you start advocating on their behalf. You're just taking the side against Israel for killing Gaza children, ignoring the reality that Hamas is using them as civilians, as human shields. And I've been telling you this from day one, that you have been used by Hamas. They want you to cause chaos. They want the global chaos. They want to put pressure on the US government, on the Israeli government, and all other democracies. They want to bring the civilized world to its knees from those ugly images that we see from the war. But Israel did not initiate that war on October 7th. Hamas did. And our problem is not only with Hamas, it's with the Palestinian ideology that you just want to gift Hamas and other fanatics a Palestinian state, thinking that this is going to bring a solution.
I agree with them there. You know, they've been offered a state so many times and declined it. But to offer them a state right now is like rewarding them for what they did on October 7th. Oh yeah, just go in there and massacre as many people as you want, take hostages, murder children, parade the bodies of the Bebas children out for the world to see. And what should we do about that? Oh, I know. Let's reward you. Let's reward you and give you a state. We'll give you a state. And do you think if they get that state that the violence is going to stop? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They were doing this before even Israel was created. Just go back to the violence before Israel was created, where Jews were being massacred. So yeah, this two-state solution is rubbish. It's absolutely rubbish.
To create a global chaos. These people are not looking for equal opportunity. They don't want to divide the land. If they wanted to divide the land, they would have accepted the partition back in 1948. But instead of declaring their independence, they declared war against the Jewish people. Then they remembered some 40 years later to declare their independence. This is Palestinians, or what so-called Palestinians. They have many fundamental problems. They don't have a legitimate leadership. You know, you tell me about the camp, and like you speak on behalf of all the encampment in the United States. You run only a camp here at UCLA. There are other encampments. You are not in charge of them, and they did not even elect you as a leadership. You don't have a moral compass. You don't have an objective out of this thing. You're just going in a revolution for the sake of revolution, intifada, and you don't have a resolution. Where are you getting?
And I hate that when I hear that screamed in the streets of London and everywhere in the country. I think the new one is like global intifada from Mexico to Gaza. What an intifada is. It's a violent uprising. A violent uprising. So they're now calling for a violent uprising from Mexico to Gaza, which means they're calling for a violent uprising in America. They called for a global. The Hamas leaders called for a global intifada. Meaning they were wanting a violent uprising in places like the UK, Europe, anywhere that was being the useful idiots for Hamas.
What's the next? Sure. So fundamentally, we have a problem with Palestine. Before we resolve this issue, we need the Palestinians to decide what they want. First of all, what's their constitution? What's their agenda? What's their leadership? And will they drop violence as a method? Will they accept Israel's right to exist? Then after that...
Nope. Do you know when, like, we're in Gaza, do you know what the number one book is that they were finding there? Mein Kampf. Hitler's Mein Kampf. Best-selling book in Gaza. A disgusting, hateful book by a monster. Read by people that support this demon's ideology. And a lot of people forget as well, like during World War II, Hitler had an alliance with the Islamists. He wanted to take out the Jews in Europe and wanted the Islamists. He was good friends with the Mufti. I can't remember if it was Egypt or not, or the one that was in Palestine at the time. I can't remember. I'm sorry. Like as I says, like I'm sick and my mind's a bit over the place at the moment. But yeah, Hitler had an alliance with them, so he was going to take them all out in Europe, and they were going to finish them off in the Middle East. Hence why you saw Jews literally fleeing Morocco. I mean, this woman who's taken hostage, her parents are from, one of her parents is from Morocco, another from another Middle Eastern country. They fled Iraq, they fled Syria, they fled Yemen, they fled everywhere and headed to the one place that they would feel safe. And I don't think that that's a bad idea, because I'm in support of the Nigerians in Nigeria, the Christian Nigerians. See, we have to take people in. How about we take in the Christian Nigerians who are being massacred? And I'm not talking about 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of black African Nigerians are being massacred in their churches. They're being beheaded in their churches just for the sheer fact of being Christians. Or the Christians in the Congo. Why don't we take them in? Because they need safety and security. They'd be massacred as well by Islamists. Any Christian who has been massacred in places like Africa and stuff like that, these are the people that we need to offer asylum to. Not the boat people. Definitely not. Especially because Iran put out a statement saying that they want to activate the terrorist cells that they have in the UK and the US. Help the people that really need it. I don't see protesters out in the street advocating for the Muslims in Yemen who are literally starving to death. We're talking hundreds of thousands of Yemenis starving to death because you've got the Houthis that despise them for some reason. But if it's a Muslim killing a Muslim, yeah, that's not news, is it? That's not news. But these are the people that need asylum. So I don't care what your religion is. But if you're going to do protests, at least be fair about it. Instead of doing protests against Israel, why don't you do a protest and to stop the starvation of the Yemeni Muslims in Yemen, or the Congolese Christians who are being beheaded in the Congo, or the Nigerian Christians who are being massacred by the thousands in Nigeria. So I believe in giving asylum. I'm not against immigration at all. But give it to the people that genuinely need it. Because if they don't get it, they're going to end up dead.
We can have a dialogue and there can be a solution. But as long as they want to annihilate the state of Israel, kill their own children, sacrifice civilians only for your sympathy.
And there's a documentary on YouTube called Brides of Allah. And it's about Palestinian women. And they ultimately admit that the reason that they have children, and so many of them, is so they can grow up to be martyrs, suicide bombers. And these mothers are sitting saying, if my son grows up to be a suicide bomber and kills Jews, he will make me the proudest mother in the world. Go and watch it. Go and watch this documentary and see what's being said. Like I says, do not take my word. Do not take my word as gospel. Go and watch these things. Read what they're saying for yourself.
And the rest of the world's sympathy, then this cycle of violence will never end. So first of all, the false narrative must end. Then the use of violence has to be dropped completely and unconditionally, targeting civilians indiscriminately.
Oh, yeah. Another one I want to thing is, go and watch, because it's on YouTube as well, Palestinian children's television. They've got a fake Mickey Mouse character called Forfar. And the rhetoric on there is disgraceful. And we're talking about nursery, kindergarten, primary, so you call them, I don't know, first graders, second graders, right up to teenagers. The rhetoric that they're teaching them, asking, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to grow up and stab Jews. What do you want to be when you grow up? I want to grow up and be a suicide bomber. What do you think of the Jews? They're the devils, and then we need to kill them. And our young boy was asked what he wanted to be when he grew up. And he says he wanted to stab Jews and take their heads off. Go and watch some Palestinian children's television. All of it is propaganda about killing Jews. All of it. I don't remember growing up and watching the Gummy Bears or My Little Pony or Barbie or anything like that, and the plot was, oh yeah, let's kill the English or the Scots or, the Irish or yeah, there was none of that. It was all a positive message, about love and being kind and helping people and things like that. That you watch Palestinian television, children's television. Honestly, I was shocked. They even have a section on suicide bombers. There's a young girl that comes up and she talks about her mum being a suicide bomber and how proud she was that her mum was a suicide bomber because she managed to kill 30 Jews. She must have been about 12. And I'm thinking to myself, this is what you're teaching your children. The hatred's never going to end. It's never going to end. You're radicalizing your kids.
Then after that, there would be room for dialogue and negotiations.
And it's so crazy to me how these college students are defending literal terrorists, not knowing or completely ignoring the fact that these terrorists don't even agree with what they're saying, especially when it comes to things like women's rights and gays' rights.
My name is Renee, and I'm from Jordan.
There's a guy that went and interviewed Palestinians, and he asked them, what do you think about gays for Palestine? And his answer was, yeah, we don't want these people supporting us. Maybe they should get the death penalty. Do these people not understand what they're supporting? I genuinely don't think they understand what they're supporting. If the gays for Palestine ever went into Gaza, they'd never leave. They'd be murdered. You read that passage from the Quran. If these people got into Gaza, do you think they're going to be getting out alive? No. Because it says to kill those who are not Muslims. I honestly do not think they truly believe what they're supporting. And you ask half of them history of Israel and Palestine, they don't know any of the answers. You ask them, well, you're chanting from the river to the sea. What river and what sea? They don't know. They can't even tell you one city in Gaza. They can't tell you a city in the West Bank, aka Judea and Samaria. They don't even know that the West Bank's real name is Judea and Samaria. That it's only called the West Bank because when it was part of Jordan, it was on the very west of the river in Jordan. So it was on the very west bank of the river in Jordan. The Jordanian River. That's what it's called, the West Bank. But they don't know that. They don't know that. They assume that the Jews just arrived there in their 40s and that have never been here before. They don't. They have no idea that the Jews have been on this land for 3,000 years and have been kicked out by many different empires, the Romans, the Ottomans and stuff like that. They do historical digs and you'll find Jewish coins and stuff like that. 3,000 years. You don't even know that beforehand the land was called the Kingdom of Israel. That's why I say these people are useful idiots. Because they literally know nothing. All they're doing is, they'll join any group. They'll think their activism is popular at the time. I even saw one person at the recent LA riots. He was wearing a keffiyeh, a Mexican flag, a rainbow t-shirt, and a transgender a poster for that. I thought, God almighty, you're wearing every piece of armour for every single cause that you guys... You can't even pick a cause and stick with it. Oh yeah, he also had a Black Lives Matter thing as well. It's like they're confused, like they can't pick a cause and stick with it. So they've squashed them all together. And what the hell's Mexico got to do with Palestine? What the hell is LGBT rights got to do with Palestine? Apart from the fact that the Palestinians have no rights if they are LGBT. What the hell does... Oh, I don't know. I'm just so lost that, yeah, this seems to be their armour. As soon as the new cause pops up, they'll add that to their armor. You know, that'll be the next. They'll squash into their activism. Like, none of their activism makes any sense whatsoever because we don't know the history to some of the things they're doing activism about. And it just looks ridiculous.
And I grew up there. Aiden, as a young man, I commend you for putting on a suit and coming out here tonight. I appreciate that from a professor, okay? But you also have to have enough humility to know that you don't know enough. And I'm telling you that as an Arab. So where would I rather live? Tel Aviv or Gaza? Who would I rather live amongst? Hamas, which is what you're advocating for. I also believe that it's words and your actions are incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
So you're not doing my people any good by these encampments. If anything, you're empowering Hamas, Hezbollah, ISIS, and the plethora that are kind of in breeding right now. So, like,
You're absolutely right. The Arab people do not deserve. They don't deserve to have to live under these hellish terrorist regimes who have destroyed their countries.
said, I appreciate, you putting on a suit and coming here and speaking for my people. My people don't want you speaking for them because you're not helping us. You're not. You can shake your head. You can shake your head. You can shake your head.
I don't claim to speak for the people of Jordan. I don't know what.
Well, Palestine, same thing. Listen, don't be rude, man.
You don't speak from the people of Jordan. You do know that a good chunk of the population of Jordan are Palestinian. Yeah. So, I mean, they just, they know nothing. They know nothing.
Not the same thing, actually.
It's not the same thing, but no, actually, here's the thing. Here's one thing you don't know.
No, they're literally not.
Hold on. Let her speak.
Before the British mandate, I could have been a Palestinian instead of a Jordanian or Egyptian. It's the same people. So don't act like you know my people better than myself or Yusuf. So that's the arrogance. This is the arrogance and the problem that I have with the encampments. I came here tonight with a fucking taser because you think you're protesting peacefully. I'm going to be okay showing up here by myself because white, entitled, spoiled Americans want to get attention.
White savior complex, honey. White savior complex. I absolutely agree with you. Need to keep our noses out. Now, Arabs are capable of speaking for themselves and they know their land better than we Westerners. And we Westerners need to wake the hell up. Because we've imported a lot of people who do not deserve to be in this land. Who are extremists. Who are ruining the lives of these Arab people. And we've imported them into our country. So we better waken up. Because if we think we're in for an easy time with it, because the people, as it says in their book, kill those that are not part of us, then yeah, you're sorely mistaken.
That's what you're standing up for. You're making it worse for Arabs here and back home.
Yeah.
So you're not doing any of us anyhow.
All these college students defending Hamas, or as he put it,
Look
useful
at them all
idiots.
with their kafar on, their kafirs on. You do know that is Iraqi cultural clothing. You do know that, right? I know you wokies love to call people out that you're culturally appropriating someone else's cultural clothing, etc., etc. But this is exactly what you're doing. You're appropriating the Iraqis' the Iraqis kafir. Even the design of it. The design. Go and look at it. Go and look at the Iraqi kafir and the design of it. These are Iraqi kafirs. And they're wearing them as if they belong and were invented by the Palestinians. They weren't. They're Iraqi.
Now Mossab gets asked what he thinks of the students that wear keffiyehs.
They will never be part of the reality of the Middle East. They will continue to be part of a virtual reality disconnected from the real world. And I guarantee you that this is not only his or their problems. In life, they are disconnected from reality. They are living in an alternative reality. And this is where they think they rule, by how many followers they have. But eventually, you know who decides the reality on the ground? The brave soldiers who are fighting the real fight in the face of the monsters. At the end of the day, okay, I agreed to come to this debate, but I didn't think that is going to be this ridiculous. Okay. But anyway, I choose to come to someone who's living in their own head, and they want to defy a 45-year of solid experience that has the power of gravity that can take a galaxy in if necessary. So he can go on thinking in his head. But at the end of the day, the powerful soldiers, those are my people. Those are the ones who are going to decide the day. And those are the ones who will write the history. And everyone else will read it.
Amen. Amen, Hassab. Amen. I love this guy. I truly do. He's one of my favourite Arab speakers. Because he just speaks with such passion. And he does not take any snatch off of anyone. So yeah, he's on X. Go and hit follow. I advise you to go and watch other videos and debates that he's done, because his story is so interesting. He has a book called The Green Prince, which is such an amazing read. He's just got another new book out at the life of me at this moment. I can't remember what it's called, but if I do, I'll put it in the description. But yeah, thank you to this video. Stand with Israel. You don't have to agree with everything Israel does. I don't even agree with everything Israel does, and I don't. But we have to be honest about this conflict, and we have to be honest about the hostages, and honest. I'm sick of the pro-Palestinian lot saying that the women weren't R-worded when there's literal medical proof out there that it happened. There's testimonies from witnesses that it happened. So it's you'll believe in me too, unless you're a Jew. That's the other saying is, oh yeah, no Jew, no news. But like I says, I do feel for the Palestinian people who have a disgraceful government that'll hide in tunnels, keep themselves safe, use their people as human shields. But I did see them all celebrating You can't lie about it. It's on camera. No amount of people that's going to turn around and say to me, "Oh yeah, little victims, they're like, oh, this and the other." I saw them literally with my own eyes. Like, do not gaslight me and tell me what I saw wasn't real. I saw them celebrating. I saw them celebrating 9/11. I saw them celebrating other terrorist attacks that have happened in Western countries like in the UK. Now, while I do not celebrate the death of anybody, the death of any Palestinian, I would never do that. Never, ever, ever. Every death is a loss. Every death is horrible. But all Hamas has to do is release the hostages. They've even laid down their arms, and they've even given the option to get safe passage out of Gaza to Algeria, where for some weird reason they're treated like heroes there. I don't know why, but I'll need to look into that more. But I hope you enjoyed this reaction, and like I said, do not take my word for things. Do your own research. Do your own research. And come to your own conclusions. Alright, I'm gonna go now, guys. I love you all so much. Stay safe and God bless.